She swept in 20 minutes late, designer shades, paper cup, the click of heels a metronome of entitlement. You should be grateful I came at all, she told the bench, setting the coffee on the rail like a calling card. A few people in the gallery exhaled through their teeth. Judge Caprio didn't blink. Name? He asked, mild as a porch light. Claire Bennett, she said, sliding her phone into a handbag that cost more than most cars in the lot outside. Let's be quick. I have a luncheon. He glanced at the citation. Parking in a space reserved for the disabled, adjacent to the ramp. She lifted one shoulder. It wasn't long. Wood creaked as someone shifted. Caprio's eyes stayed on her. Up close, the armor showed hairline cracks, thumb rubbing the lid of the coffee, a smudge of fatigue beneath flawless makeup. He set the photograph on the easel. Her SUV nosed across blue hash marks, the painted wheelchair symbol half buried under the bumper. The metal ramp to the clinic's door sat useless beside it. Mrs. Bennett, he said, that ramp is there for people who cannot lift their feet. She gave a practiced smile. And my time has value. We all make trade-offs. That's so. He rested his hands, old knuckles pale on the bench. Where were you? That 5 extra steps were too dear. Errand, she said. Personal. Which is exactly that. Personal. My husband funds half the arts in this city. We are hardly the problem. A soft, disbelieving laugh rustled the room. Caprio raised a palm, and the sound ebbed. In here, no one funds anything. In here, people answer for where they put their cars. She stared back, offended and faintly surprised. The look of someone discovering there's a door her key doesn't open. He studied the photo again, then the crowd. A man in a work jacket folded his arms. An elderly woman tightened her grip on a cane. The air itself seemed to steady. You said it would be quick, he went on. It can be. Tell me why you chose that space. I told you, I wasn't long. That isn't a why. He let the silence gather. Somewhere a watch ticked. Coffee steamed in the cold above the rail. You walked past a sign at eye level, a blue symbol at your feet, and a slope built for wheels, not heels. Help me understand the decision. Her jaw set. This should be a formality. I have a driver. He was off. I managed. Managed? Caprio repeated, almost kindly. Do you know what cannot manage stairs? Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time she looked at the photograph as if it might look back. From the third row, a whisper. My sister uses that ramp. The whisper didn't ask for sympathy. It testified. Caprio nodded once, like a man making a small mark in a ledger. Mrs. Bennett, in my courtroom, money has no jurisdiction. Courtesy does. He tapped the photo. This isn't a dollar problem. It's an eyesight problem, what we choose to see when it isn't about us. She stood very straight. The hand on the handbag stopped moving. A flush crept up her throat, quickly suppressed. She reached for the coffee and missed the lid by an inch. No one yet knew what would surface when the smooth surface finally rippled. What names, what debts, what habits hidden under a family's shine. They only knew the tone had shifted. The judge's voice was still gentle. The room had grown very still. He slid the citation aside. We'll proceed, he said. And this time, we'll be on time. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Tell me a little about yourself, Caprio said, the way a doctor might ask before taking a pulse. Claire exhaled, more performance than breath. My husband chairs Bennett in North Bank. We live in Bristol. I run several foundations, arts, literacy, medical grants. We're involved. Involved how? His tone remained neighborly, the question not. I raise money. I host events. I make sure things happen. A brittle smile. If I stopped, half this city would miss me. Would they? He didn't blink. Do you have work apart from the events? She looked offended, then bored. I don't draw a salary, if that's what you mean. I don't need one. He nodded, filing the answer somewhere quiet. Up close, her polish looked like lacquer over wood that had been sanded too often. The right cuff hid a faint bruise of sleeplessness. She held herself like a portrait, arranged for viewing. Children, he asked. One. Her gaze slid to the middle distance. He's at college. Very busy. A pause too long to be casual. We text. When was the last time you had a coffee with him? Caprio asked, as if it were part of the form. She missed a beat. He's finding himself. And you? He said gently. Have you found yourself? Her laugh was quick and hard. Judge, I built a hospital wing. I underwrite the symphony. I don't have time for this kind of question. People who give a lot sometimes give away the wrong thing first, he said. Tell me about the car. My husband's company fleet. She lifted her chin. There's a driver. He had the day off. I handled it. You always handle it, he asked. I handle what needs handling. The edge returned. Which is why I can't spend a morning debating a parking ticket. He slid a document toward her. Then let's not debate. Let's understand. You've said you were rushing. Where to? Her jaw flexed. A meeting. What kind? Personal. That word again. A velvet rope across an empty doorway. He let the silence lengthen until it could carry more weight. Mrs. Bennet, when people come here, I ask two things. What happened? And who you are. You've told me where you live and what you fund. You haven't told me who you are. I am someone who keeps things running, she said, and for the first time the sentence wavered. If I stop, people notice. Who would notice? He asked. She stared at the tabletop. Everyone, she said, and then, smaller, no one. A vein of truth had surfaced, thin as a hairline crack. He didn't press it open. How long have you been keeping things running? Since I'm married into it, she said. Before that, I worked. I had a calendar I filled myself. I slept. A ghost of a smile. I used to teach Saturday art classes at the community center. Finger paint. Glue sticks. Chaos. What happened to that? Caprio asked. My husband said we had responsibilities now. Real ones. The last two words carried a tired quotation mark. He nodded again, the way men his age nod when they've heard a familiar type of loss. Do you manage your own accounts? Our accountants do, she said quickly. I sign. You read what you sign? Of course, she said, then softer. Usually. He turned the photograph face down, as if to give her a moment without the proof of it staring back. You said a driver usually takes you. Yes. And when he doesn't? I improvise, she said. I've been improvising for years. The room gathered her words and held them. In the second row, a woman with a church hat folded her hands tighter, as if to keep from speaking. A man in a tradesman's jacket watched Claire with the wary compassion of someone who has seen expensive trouble at close range. Mrs. Bennet, Caprio said, I've been in this room a long time. People bring me their alibis. Sometimes they bring me their history by accident. What I'm hearing is a lot of weight and not many names. Who helps you? My assistant, she said. My husband's office. The foundation staff. I meant who helps you, he repeated softer. You, the person. She looked at him as if he had asked in Greek. Her fingers found the coffee lid again, turned it one click, then another. When she spoke, it was almost to herself. When my mother was ill, I learned to make lists on the back of grocery receipts. Pills. Appointments. Who to call if she fell. After she died, I never stopped making lists. I only changed the paper. He offered the faintest of smiles, the kind that doesn't trespass. Lists are useful. They can't hold you up. She swallowed. The performance slipped a fraction. I am not used to being asked these things in public. Good, he said. Public has been too kind to you. It confuses applause for proof. The gallery was utterly still now. Even her attorneys had stopped their whispering choreography. The persona she'd worn in, brisk, untouchable, solvent, looked suddenly like a uniform that didn't fit. Caprio lifted the citation once more, then set it down as if it were a napkin after a meal. We'll deal with the ticket. But I wanted to meet the person first. You keep telling me what you maintain. I'm more interested in what you've lost. Claire looked up, and for a heartbeat the room saw someone not flanked by wealth or titles. Only a woman holding together too many moving parts with both hands. Sleep, she said, barely above a whisper. And the part of me that used to say no. He inclined his head. That, Mrs. Bennet, is the part this room was built to protect. Sometimes the smallest detail tells the largest lie. Caprio leaned forward, studying the glossy photograph again. The image had been taken from a low angle, harsh sunlight, the curb line of a medical plaza, Claire's black SUV hugging the ramp meant for wheelchairs. The paint was scuffed where the tire had scraped the yellow curb. What caught his eye wasn't the car, it was the shadow in the driver's window. A second silhouette. He tapped the print lightly. Who was with you? Claire looked up, startled. What? In this picture, he said, sliding it closer. There's someone in the passenger seat. Male, broad shoulders. You said you drove alone. Her eyes flickered, calculating. That's my brother. A hum rippled through the courtroom. Caprio didn't move. Your brother, he repeated, voice even. He works with you? Her hands folded tightly in her lap. He used to. He doesn't anymore. What happened? She hesitated, and that pause was louder than any confession. It's complicated. I have time, the judge said quietly. Claire's lawyer leaned forward, but she lifted a hand to stop him. Her tone sharpened, the last defense of someone cornered. We had a disagreement. Business, not personal. Caprio nodded, unhurried. Business that ends family ties is rarely just business. The air thickened. Somewhere, a bench creaked. She adjusted her scarf, eyes darting anywhere but toward the gallery. You mentioned he doesn't work at the bank anymore, Caprio continued. Did he leave, or was he asked to? Judge, this isn't relevant to. It's relevant, Caprio interrupted, still calm. Because you said you're not responsible for the parking, that you were distracted. I'm wondering by what. Her mouth tightened. The audience could almost hear the machinery of her self-control grinding. Finally, she said, he left after a dispute over funds. He claimed the bank's charity accounts weren't being used properly. He was wrong. Or he was right, Caprio said, almost to himself. Her head snapped up. Excuse me. I've seen people hide behind good works before, he said. They call it charity when it's really a mirror, meant to show them someone they'd rather believe they are. I don't appreciate. I'm not asking for appreciation, Caprio said. I'm asking for truth. A long silence. The woman in the third row, the same one who had spoken earlier, clasped her hands tighter, watching. Claire's voice finally came, smaller. He accused my husband of laundering donations. I told him to stop talking before he ruined everything. And did he? She blinked twice, as if bracing for impact. He disappeared. Left town. The words landed like a stone dropped in still water. The murmurs began before Caprio could speak, low, rising, restrained only by his raised palm. Do you know where he is now? He asked. No, she said, too quickly. We don't speak. He nodded again, letting the silence return to its full weight. Then, softly, you know, Mrs. Bennet, I've learned that guilt doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides behind expensive perfume and good manners. But it still leaves a scent. Her lips parted, but no words came. The mask she'd worn since stepping into the courtroom, all sharp lines and confidence, began to fracture. She looked less like a woman defending privilege and more like someone trying not to drown in it. Caprio gathered the papers, his tone almost kind again. This started as a parking violation, but I suspect what's parked here is something much heavier. The courtroom remained silent. The clock on the wall ticked once, twice. He placed the photo face down. We'll take a recess, he said quietly. When we return, we'll see if honesty can find a space to park. She stayed seated long after he left the bench, staring at the photograph as if it might still change what it showed. When the judge spoke next, the air in the courtroom seemed to vanish. Only her breathing could be heard, uneven, shallow. For the first time, Claire Bennet looked afraid. Judge Caprio adjusted his glasses, unfolded a fresh document from the clerk's desk, and read aloud in the same calm tone he'd used all morning. Mrs. Bennet, this report connects your vehicle, license plate 7PC 42, to another incident. Not a parking violation, a financial one. Murmurs stirred in the back rows. Caprio raised a hand, silencing them. According to the city log, your car was recorded outside the downtown branch of Bennett and North Bank on the night 3 employees were terminated. The same night, a restricted access account was manually altered. Her complexion drained of color. I was there, yes, but only to pick up some paperwork for my husband. That's all. He nodded slowly. At midnight. Her voice caught. I didn't know the time. He called. He said it was urgent. And you had permission to enter the building after hours? Silence. She clutched the strap of her purse as if it were an anchor. From the back of the room, a man stood, a tired face, gray at the temples, his hands rough from years of work. Your Honor, he said, voice trembling but clear. I know that woman. She fired me. I refused to change figures in a quarterly report. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, someone muttering, my God. Caprio struck the gavel once. Firm, not angry. The noise ceased instantly. This isn't a criminal hearing, he said, looking from the witness to the accused. But truth doesn't check the calendar before showing up. Claire's eyes darted toward the man, recognition flashing, then shame. She wanted to protest, to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Her throat tightened. The same composure that once filled press conferences and charity galas deserted her now. Caprio spoke gently, almost sorrowfully. Mrs. Bennet, I can't decide what happened at that bank. But I can see what's happening here. You call it an error, an oversight. Yet the pattern is larger than a parking space or a late-night visit. He held her gaze. You built a world where rules bend for the powerful. And now you can't tell which of them are still real. She whispered, I didn't mean. He stopped her with a slight shake of the head. Intent is a luxury of the comfortable. Consequence is what the rest of us live with. Her knuckles whitened. The handbag trembled in her lap. The woman who had strutted in that morning looking untouchable now seemed smaller, fragile beneath the fluorescent light. Caprio leaned forward, his tone quieter, stripped of ceremony. Do you know what I remember most about people like you, Mrs. Bennet? Not the lies. Not even the arrogance. It's the emptiness that follows once the performance ends. Her eyes filled, not yet tears, but the kind of moisture that precedes surrender. He folded the report, placed it neatly aside, and said the words that broke through every wall she had left. Money doesn't give strength, he said softly. It only reveals who you are when it's gone. The courtroom didn't move. Even the ceiling fans seemed to hesitate. Claire's head lowered. No gestures, no defense. Just the slow collapse of someone realizing that for all her wealth, she had run out of places to hide. Caprio sat back, letting the silence complete his sentence. The gavel never fell. It didn't need to. The moment had already delivered its verdict. The next morning, the courtroom was heavier than before, as if the air itself remembered what had been said. Judge Caprio sat quietly, a new folder before him. When he opened it, the room fell into a silence so thick that even the sound of turning paper felt intrusive. Mrs. Bennet, he began, this is the annual financial report from Bennet and North Bank. It states that, under your authorization, several community accounts were terminated last year. Pensioners, veterans, and a children's charity. Her head lifted sharply. I had nothing to do with that. He read on. And yet, here, he pointed, tapping the page with his pen, is your signature. Something inside her cracked. You don't understand, she burst out, her voice shaking. He told me to sign whatever came from the office. My husband runs everything. She faltered. I just sign. A ripple of murmurs traveled through the gallery. Someone whispered, finally. Caprio closed the folder gently, as though he'd been expecting this all along. So you did what was asked of you, even when it cost others their savings, their trust? She didn't answer. Did you ever ask what you were approving? He continued. Or was comfort easier than confrontation? Her lip trembled. If I questioned him, it became unbearable at home. He said appearances were everything, that we couldn't afford mistakes. And so, the judge said softly, you chose silence. You believed silence would protect you. Tears threatened, but she blinked them back. I thought if I kept everything perfect, no one would see how broken it was. Caprio nodded slowly. Mrs. Bennet, you're not a criminal in the eyes of this court. But morality doesn't always wait for a statute. You became a partner in your husband's deceit, not by greed, but by fear. Yet fear, too, is a choice. For a moment, no one breathed. She looked up at him, eyes red but clear now. You think I wanted this life? I wanted peace. I wanted to matter. He leaned forward, his voice kind but unyielding. You've spent years trying to be visible to a man who looked right through you. But you mistook his attention for meaning. Her shoulders slumped, her tone barely audible. I just wanted someone to notice me. He let the words hang, then said quietly, I see you now. But the question is, can you see yourself? The courtroom stayed utterly still. Even those who had judged her harshly now watched her differently, not as a villain, but as a woman realizing, too late, the cost of her obedience. Caprio pushed the papers aside. We'll adjourn until tomorrow, he said softly. Perhaps by then, you'll decide whether you want absolution or change. She nodded once, unable to speak. And for the first time, Claire Bennet looked like someone ready to face the truth, not because the law demanded it, but because her conscience finally did. When the courtroom doors opened for the final session, the crowd returned not for scandal, but for closure. Reporters waited, pens poised, but the usual tension had thinned into something quieter, the weight of anticipation mixed with fatigue. Judge Caprio entered without a word. He adjusted his papers, then looked directly at Claire Bennet. She stood alone, no husband, no attorney this time. The sunglasses, the armor of elegance, were gone. Her face was bare, almost fragile. After a long pause, the judge spoke. Mrs. Bennett, I've reviewed every document, every statement. I can't erase what's been done, and neither can you. But I can give you a chance to decide what kind of person you'll be after this. The room was so silent that his voice carried like a whisper in a cathedral. I could impose the full penalty, he continued, but punishment doesn't always teach. Sometimes it only deepens the wound. He closed the file in front of him. Instead, I'm ordering you to complete 40 hours of volunteer service at the Elmhurst Senior Center, quietly, without press or privilege. You'll serve the people your husband's policies have forgotten. Her head lifted sharply. You want to humiliate me? Caprio shook his head. No, I want you to understand humility. There's a difference. She stared at him, defiant at first, then trembling. You think I've never known pain? You think I chose this life? I think, he said softly, you forgot you had choices at all. Her breath caught, not in anger this time, but in realization. Do you know why I asked for the senior center? Caprio continued. Because there you'll meet people who lost everything, savings, homes, even families, and yet they still manage to smile. They have less than you, Mrs. Bennett, but they've kept what you've been searching for all along, dignity. Tears welled, finally breaking through the practiced calm she'd clung to. I don't know if I can do that, she whispered. He nodded once. Then that's where you start. For several seconds, no one moved. Then, from the gallery, the frail woman who had spoken earlier began to clap. Once, twice, until others joined, not out of triumph, but in quiet recognition that something inside this courtroom had shifted. Caprio lifted his gavel but didn't strike it. Justice, he said, isn't about money or pride. It's about remembering that the law only matters when the soul behind it is still human. Claire wiped her face, nodded slightly, and turned toward the exit. She carried no designer bag now, only a folded court order in her hand, a new kind of weight. As the doors closed behind her, the judge murmured, almost to himself, may she find what the law could never give, peace through truth. And with that, the courtroom fell silent again, not in judgment, but in something closer to grace.